Hope everybody's doing well. All the attendees joining in today. Thank you so much for making the time to join our session and listen to Jazzlyn and see what she has to say, or hear what she has to say and see what she has to show.
Yeah, I always have to like sprinkle memes into my presentations to keep myself interested in the slideshow aspect.
Yeah,
so I hope you'll like it.
That's the new normal way of communication anyway. So, use people.
Yeah, GIFs, memes, emojis.
Yeah. It's the new way to do business.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I love those. There's that one meme I love. Somebody's just like sending an email to somebody with a smiley face, and they would get a response. Smiley faces are not professional, and then they just respond with a sad face. So it's just
now that millennials are a larger force or a larger presence in the workforce, I feel like that kind of like what it means to be professional is changing a bit for what I think is the better. But I was like watching a TikTok about Zoomers in the office, and it was like an office that was primarily Zoomers. And it was fascinating. like the emojis, I just like they were almost having full conversations in emoji. And I was like trying to decipher it. And I was like, oh, yeah, I've aged out.
I'd be lying if I hadn't had gift chats, like a full conversation with just like office memes back and forth with, some of my colleagues. So why not? Like, it's just so much more pleasant and fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think the attendee rolling has been slowing down a little bit. Do we want to give a couple more minutes or?
No, I say let's get started.
The session is being recorded. It will be accessible to anybody who would like it, as well as the folks that can't make it. So Jazzlyn, do you want to kick us off, and then I'll take us into the next couple of slides?
So actually my slides are a little bit further in, so if you want to start with this one and the next one, I think that's
absolutely happy to do it. Well, first of all, thank you all for joining us. Really excited to see everybody on the webinar today. Really glad you could make it, and hopefully we'll continue to see you in upcoming webinars as we keep putting them out there. It sounds like some of you already know Jazzlyn and vice versa, so that's always fun. We have some familiar faces to Jazzlyn. I think I know a couple names in here, but not these folks that work here. But we wanted to put this session together, and obviously for Jazzlyn to share some of the secrets of comics crowdfunding, being the veteran that she is, and we thought that this would be great for her to share some of the knowledge with our community, and use the time to have some Q&A and really just get some ideas floating around out there, and really just get a better understanding of why some of the campaigns succeed and some fail. So thank you, Jazzlyn, for doing the session for us in our community. We really appreciate that as well, and your time as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Do you want to take us into the next slide, Jazzlyn?
Yeah, of course.
So before we dive into Jazzlyn's content and she starts the presentation on her end, I just wanted to quickly put out there, for those of you who don't know who we are Crowdfundr, and we are a creator-friendly crowdfunding platform, and we are free. It's as simple as that. We do have a lot of powerful functionalities, from running multiple campaigns at the same time to having a keep it all and all or nothing. There's a ton of stuff not really worth going into in this particular session, but if you do check us out, you'll see there's a lot we can do. We do put people and planets first, so we do believe in being a carbon neutral company, and we're always going to put social good over profit on our end, and that's part of our code of ethics. So that's our priority. The good thing about our platform is you can get started right away. If you go to our website, there's no sort of process to keep waiting a week or two. If you don't want to, you can start a campaign today. And honestly, you can start any size campaign. It doesn't have to be, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 project. If you have a $500 sticker project you want to run, or some pin projects, go ahead, get started. And we run campaigns of all sizes. So do check us out if you would like. And if you have questions, you can always reach out to us as well.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Sweet. And with that, I'm going to kick it off. So I'm here to talk about crowdfunding and marketing. Now, I want to preface all of this by saying this is what I found in my journey with crowdfunding and marketing. And I tend to overplan so that I have less work when it's going on. So take that into consideration. That's how I act. Everything that I'm saying is a bit generalized. You're going to take the parts that work for you, the parts that don't. Hopefully I spark some ideas. If you have any type of umbrance with anything that I say, like definitely let me know, because I love talking about this since it's different for so many people. So that being said, crowdfunding is a lot of work. And when people say like, oh, I want to get into crowdfunding, do you have any tips? I say like, well, it is a full-time job. So take that into account first. So like, do you have the space to take on an additional full-time job within your life right now? Because it is a lot of work. So let's start from there and then we can move on. A little bit about me and why I have, a little bit about my works, my background. Jazzlyn Stone. I have done crowdfunding campaigns for comics and video games. I just did a video game recently that was a lot of fun and I learned a lot. I've also helped out with some tabletop ones. So mostly comics, but I've dabbled in games as well. And they are very different and very fun. And I think that crowdfunding is really powerful because, man, I think that art, I'm trying to like not get too into the weeds in my like philosophy behind art and crowdfunding. So crowdfunding is important to me because it gives power to smaller creators, smaller artists, so that they can get their art out into the world, which I think is very important for a healthy society and ecosystem. Publishers are, especially these days when publishers keep getting bought up and turned into like just a few giant corporations who own most of the publishing scene. It can be hard if you have something that's like completely new and maybe won't be a commercial success. And also the idea of what is a commercial success changes a lot. So I think that crowdfunding is this really great place where you can directly connect to the fans of your art. Directly connect with your potential investors. And because that's what, your backers, your supporters are, they're investors. They're investing in your dream, basically sight unseen. And that's a really powerful relationship and a really strong relationship. And so I think it's great to like, throw off the shackles of traditional publishing and like, just like meet your fans where they're at. So I love crowdfunding for those reasons. Some of the past campaigns that I've worked on, these are just a few of them. With Wolf was November of last year, I believe. And that was 259% of our goal. Kiss You is the video game that I was speaking on. That was the highest goal that I had worked on. And we made it in the first 26 hours, which was awesome. Because then we eventually made 176% of our goal. Which is when you make your goal, it feels incredible. But if you make anything over that, you're just like, oh, I can breathe a sigh of relief and maybe make things a little bit even better. True Cult was the first one that I ever worked on. That was October of 2020. And that actually Charlie helped us a lot with that. So shout out to Charlie in the chat. But that made 176 as well. Oh, interesting. And then That Distant Fire is the most recent campaign that I helped with. And that was actually on Crowdfundr. And that was the first Crowdfundr campaign to make funding. Thank you very much. And that made funding within 5 hours, I believe. And it was like us and one other campaign. And I think That Distant Fire made funding by like 5 minutes ahead. So it's kind of like a, when you have twins and it's like, who was born first? We're like technically the older one. But only by a few minutes. So that one was really fun because that was a completely new world. Crowdfundr worked with us really intimately and were really gracious. And we had so much control over the platform and the story and the back end. And so that was really different and really fun. So those are some of the campaigns I've worked on. These are the things that people get excited about. That's my total funds raised, the total fans that I've helped creators reach. And then my overall funding average is 302%. Now, some of the campaigns I've been trying to fund or that I've helped fund have been as low as like trying to make 5,000, which is not low, but compared to 85,000, there's a pretty big difference. So this is my overall average. So yeah, I love crowdfunding. Most of my campaigns, actually all of my campaigns have made funding. All of them, but 2 have made funding in the first 12 hours. The other 2 made funding in 26 hours and then 72 hours. So that's my history. And if anyone follows me on Twitter, they've seen me post that meme a lot. Okay, so the thing that I think is most important for your campaign is the pre-launch stage. That is where I believe you set yourself up for success or failure. That's the one place that I've seen other campaigns most frequently kind of lapse on, and then they pay the cost later on when they're having trouble funding. So this is really when I'm talking to a new creator, or if I'm having a kind of interview with a new team to see if we want to work together, this is like what I really stress on. And this is where I put a lot of my focus into, because this sets up the rest of the campaign for success. So let's talk about pre-launch. So before you decide to put your campaign together, even, these are the questions that I ask creators, because this tells me if I think that they're ready to launch or not. They seem a little bit unconnected maybe at first. So for what month can I launch? That's actually a huge, that's setting up your stage, right? If you set up your stage next to, if you're at like a concert and your stage is next to like the food carts, then you're probably going to be great. If you're at a concert and your stage is next to the porta potties, it's not going to be good. And so I think about which month that you choose as being similar. So December, I typically advise people to stay away from, because in terms of commerce, December is the month that most people are thinking of holiday shopping. And so it's unlikely that your campaign is going to fund and get the product out by Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa. So I recommend staying away from December. That being said, not a lot of campaigns launch in December. So I have seen people do really cool stuff and kind of play into that. But for the projects that I work on, I kind of tend to stay away from that month, because, that's just not where the commerce world or your shopping, people who are shopping are thinking about helping out a new campaign. January, similar. Everyone's kind of fatigued from buying so much in December. So I try to stay away from those 2 months. Sometimes people will do fun little, just a little zine or a little 1-week campaign, and that can be fun. But let's assume that that's not what you're working on. And so I would stay away from those 2 months. October, if you're going to do a spooky campaign, then October is great. If you're going to do some big romantic book or anthology, February is great. Just think about where your fan base is, what they're doing. July, San Diego, that's kind of a hard one to launch a campaign in if you're not going to be at San Diego, wheeling and dealing on the Comic-Con floor. So things to think about when you're picking a month. Manufacturers, you have to know who's going to print your book ahead of time, because that affects how much your printing will cost, and that affects how much you're trying to raise. I've seen people kind of make up numbers in their head and then go to launch a campaign, and then they make funding. And then when it comes to actually print the book, it costs way more than they had thought, because they didn't get a proper quote, or they ended up going with the person they were going to use fell through or something. So that's the kind of stuff that you have to line up ahead of time. Okay, and then who can help me achieve this goal? So the really fun thing about crowdfunding is that the scene, the community is there, and they are very helpful and very excited for cool new things to happen. So when I say who can help you achieve this goal, that's who in your community can help you. That's your friends. Will your friends kind of help you post about it, or share that they we're excited about your campaign. When it comes time to ship, hundreds of books, is your partner, your family, your best friend going to come over and help you like fold the books and put them in and assemble it and print off the shipping labels? Crowdfunding is a collaborative sport, similarly to how comics is a collaborative art. And so it's something to keep in mind, is like, who can help you achieve this goal? Because people do want to help. And I don't, as long as you like know ahead of time, like, okay, if I want like 50 books, but it goes viral and I have like 50,000 books, like maybe it's time to like call on the big guns and work with like a shipping company. But if you get like 500 orders, maybe your cousins can come over for a weekend and you guys can have like a beer and pizza party and just like, get those books together. So just think about that stuff ahead of time, because I don't want you to get suddenly hit with success and then get stressed out. And then, do I believe in this project? That is, man, if you don't believe in your story, if you don't believe that you can find your audience, I think you're going to have a very hard time convincing other people to believe in your campaign and your story. Crowdfunding is, pitching. It's a lot of stuff wrapped up into one. It's saying like, hey, I have this idea and this is my plan and this is the team I'm going to work with and this is how we're going to get it to you. Do you want to help me? Which is, for beta customers, for beta fans, for your ride or dies, an incredible opportunity, because they're helping you achieve your dreams. And then they get to reap the benefits by reading the stuff that they really love that you do already. So that is like a really special, really unique and beautiful relationship. But it is very scary to be an artist and ask people to take a chance on your art. And so if you believe in your project, it's going to be a lot easier for you to ask others to believe in it. If you don't believe in your project, then I would recommend that you wait a little bit until you can believe in your project enough to ask other people. Because if you're like, I think it's a good story, I don't know, and people are like, okay, well, you don't seem confident, so maybe I'll come back, and then you're like, it's not a good story, I can't do this, then it's going to be rough. So those are the questions that I suggest, among others, that you kind of like really sit with and before you decide to launch. And then a SWOT analysis is always great. If you don't know what a SWOT analysis is, here's like a nice little graphic. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities? What are your threats? So for example, for the first campaign I ever worked on, True Cult, our strengths were, it was legitimately a good story. It was a unique story and the team was good. Our weaknesses were that it was the middle of the pandemic. Nobody knew what was happening. Everybody was scared and running around. And we had never done a campaign before. Our opportunities was that nobody was really publishing. Printers were shut down. Books weren't coming out as often. There was a bit of a hole in the comic scene. And so we felt like we could fill that hole of like this like need for new comics with ours. And then the threats, again, with COVID, we tried to be very honest and say like, this is the printer we're going to work with. We have a really good relationship with them. But shipping's really chaotic right now. And now I feel like everyone's kind of used to it being chaotic. Back then, we were all still kind of trying to figure out how to adjust to that chaos. So we had to be very honest about like, if shipping's delayed, we will tell you. If printing gets delayed, we will tell you. When we're packing up orders, this is what we're going to do to stay safe, to make sure that like, we're going to use gloves, hand sanitizer, all that stuff, take tests, all that stuff. So these are like the types of things that you want to do for your campaign ahead of time. And this is not necessarily something you have to share publicly, but this is just a nice activity for your team. Okay, building your campaign. So you've done all that, you've decided to launch, you're building out your campaign. Now, I love campaign design. And I say this as somebody who is not a designer, but is very opinionated and very visual, which is, probably the worst I'm also very nice to designers, I'll say that. But also, probably not the best to work with. But here's my thing. If you're going to do, so when I'm working on a comics campaign, who are the people I'm trying to reach, right? Comics fans. And what do those people like looking at? Words and pictures, right? So I want to make sure that my campaign story is like a pretty nice flow between like copy, like the important copy that we need, and then images of what we're saying. This can be like, hey, if you order this tier, you'll get like this book and here's a mock-up, but then also you'll get these stickers. And, like I like to show the product that they're getting, which is something that's really cool about Crowdfundr, is that you can put pictures of your, of what the tier comes with in the tiers. And then when you click on it, it opens up into its own web page. And so I've seen people with Crowdfundr do like a thread on Twitter where it's like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and they're just like linking to those tiers. And so it ends up being like a really beautiful, really accessible and user-friendly breakdown of all of your tiers, which is great because the more visuals in a tier, the better. Anyway, so if you're doing comics, I recommend doing more visuals. If you're doing prose, I would still put visuals, but hey, that audience is more used to reading large swatches of copies. Maybe like they see a long, paragraph, and they're like, oh, yes, this is home for me. I love this. Comics fans, I have a feeling, not so much. So it's also an opportunity to like further world build. So with True Cult, we like used the like logo colors of the fast food joint that's within the comic. We like use those for the different headers for the different, like, what's our goal? What's the book about? Who's our team? Stuff like that. So any type of marketing to me is an opportunity to further world build. But your campaign is your store. And so you want to make sure that it reflects what your fans are going to get if they buy your book, if they take up this journey with you. So if you're doing, I don't know, let's come up with a comic. If you're doing, I just watched Everything Everywhere All at Once. If you're working with A24 to do a comic about a world where everybody has hot dogs for fingers, right? Like, let's use the hot dog emoji just as much as we can. Let's like maybe do something that looks like somebody used hot dog fingers to like write out the copy or something. I don't know. Like, let's like work that into it and have fun with it, because you want people to be excited when they see your storefront. You want them to be like, oh, this looks really funny, or, oh, this looks really scary, but you want it to reflect whatever you're trying to invoke, whatever feelings you're trying to invoke when they read your stuff. So campaigns. Another really fun thing that I've seen video games do is, since it's a moving visual experience, is they will have like GIFs in the campaign, which I love GIFs. But it's really fun because instead of just looking at static art, because that's not how you're going to be experiencing the video game, right? It's going to be moving. So they show that throughout, and or they'll have like little like one-ups on their landing, on their header images, little like moving characters. And it's, it's fun. It makes me want to continue to like scroll down the story because I want to know what else that they put in, which is a big thing. It's hard. It's hard to get people to read everything on your campaign story. So give them little like prizes the more that they read. Okay. Launch. Stitch a pre-prep. You put up your landing page or had something that was like collecting people so they knew when you were going to launch. You've been talking about how you have this campaign coming out for about 2 weeks before you launch, letting people know. I recommend 2 weeks. I've seen people do a month. I like 2 weeks to a week. And the reason that I suggest putting up some type of landing page or like pre-launch page is because the only person that I know that can cold drop a project and have it be successful is Beyonce. And we just had one other person attend. So maybe that was Beyonce. but it's unlikely that Beyonce is in the chat right now. So for the rest of us, we have to let people know and get them excited before we drop something to say like, hey, this is going to happen. So let people know it's coming. You're like, okay, let's say September 1st, this is coming. Like, let's go. People are signing up. They're excited. You're dropping like the trailer ahead of time. Maybe you're dropping some images, like people are getting excited, and you press launch. And now it's off to the races. Now your campaign's out there and hopefully collecting a ton of fans. So the 4 weeks of assuming that you're doing a 1 month, which I like doing, I recommend 1 month. Anything longer than that is too long for me personally. I think both like the team's attention span kind of wanes and also like your audience's attention span wanes a bit. So I think 30 days is perfect, but that's just me. Your first week is going to be incredible. Hopefully, right? Like you've done all the pre-work, you've let people know. Ideally, you want to make 50% of your asking price in the first 48 hours. Typically, if you make 50% in the first 48 hours, then you are more likely to make funding because then you have, 28 days to make the other 50%, which you will need. So I prefer to make funding immediately. I mean, like we all do, that's not special, because it just takes the load off, right? It's like, just takes a load off your mind. But I really try to set us up to make sure that we have 50% those first 48. First week, people are going to be talking about it. People are going to be like congratulating you. Your family's going to be reaching out being like, wow, I saw that you like launched this thing. Nana says you're asking for money online, but it's working. Like, that's so cool. Like, congratulations. It's like every day you're going to wake up and like look at your phone. You're like, oh my gosh, we got 12 backers last night or like 100 backers last night. Like, where did these people come from? It's a high, right? Which is probably why I keep doing crowdfunding, because that first week is so nice. And then the second week comes and it is a brick wall to your to your roadrunner, right? Like, it's just like, it's rough. The second week, suddenly crickets. Nobody's ever heard of your campaign, right? Like, second and third week is when you start getting into the, what have I done? Like, why am I here? And everyone who's done a lot of campaigns has varying ways that they deal with those middle 2 weeks, because it's always a slump. But I like to warn people about them ahead of time, because the way that I focus on it, like I try to get over it, is I plan like a really fun social media campaign, right? In those 2 weeks, so that at least the team has something fun to look forward to, or we can entertain ourselves while it feels like nobody knows what's like that we exist, or interviews and like press. I'll try to focus on those for those middle 2 weeks so that like it's getting the word out. As to why it happens, my theory is that like, humans' minds are very easily tricked and very easily excited. And so it's like when something's new and shiny, we're like, oh yeah, we want to be on the ground floor. Especially if you make funding, you're more likely to get more funding, because some people want to be like first backer, second backer, and some people just want to back when they know that it's definitely being made. So if you make funding in that first week, everybody's like, oh, this is so great, I'm a part of it, I was here at the beginning, like popping champagne bottles. And then second week, people are like, yeah, like I kind of heard about it, but I don't know, I'm busy, like I gotta wash my cactus, like I don't know. Third week, they're busy with other things. And then the fourth week happens, and just when you're about to lose all hope, the countdown begins, right? And people are like, oh, I don't want to miss out. So then they come back and they're like, oh, I've been meaning to back this, but like, I just forgot, and like I'm doing it now. And you're like, where were you those other 2 weeks? Like, you could have backed then too. But whatever, we're a simple creature, humans. So final week, suddenly everyone's back into it. This is when I like to do countdowns because they're just very fun. I don't know why. Like we do it every year for New Year's. We love a countdown. It feels like the anticipation. We all know how to do it. Like there's just something about the countdown. So it's like 1 week left, 6 days left, 5 days left, 4 days left, you know. And then when it gets to the last day, that's when I ask the team to kind of clear their schedule best they can. So we can all be like together, because that last day you're going to have a lot of anxiety anyway, because it's going to be like, can we get to 200% funded? Can we get to 666 fans? Like, how far can we take this? Like, so I asked them to like clear the schedule, get on like a big group meeting so we can just like be there for each other. And then, you know, doing like 6 hours left, 5 hours left. And then when it gets to that last hour, it's like 30 minutes left, 10 seconds left. And I'll be real, I have backed so many campaigns because people were like, 3 minutes left, don't miss out. And I was like, I don't even care about this, but I can't miss out. And so I'm like, you know, there was one campaign that I think like Indiana Jones, my card like got in there. Like it was like maybe closed on like the East Coast and it was coming down and I just like got in. It was to the wire. Great campaign. Glad that I backed it, but you know, I had no interest in it before then. So if you're doing those like those things that, you know, those weird things that we all love taking part of, I think it really helps, and it keeps your campaign, one, it keeps your sanity because you're like having fun with it, and two, it just like people love helping. And these are really good opportunities for them to help. So like maybe they backed it in the first week and they see that you're like down to your last hour, they're going to retweet you or whatever it is. So yeah, I love those. And then just, you know, a warning, the natural low after achieving a dream is real. There's the con. So after you go to like a convention, there's something that a lot of people are talking about now, which is like the low. And it's like, after you do something that's like, you moved a mountain, you made funding, you had this little dream, you know, in your like room one day, and you like worked out with some friends and you made this comic and you pitched it to the world and they came through and they helped you achieve it. And it's like so great, and you made it and you're like, you know, like, we're kings of the world, like we got this. And then a couple of days later, it's not that like you're low, but it's just that like your high was so high and now normal feels low. And so just give yourself some time to like get reacquainted with reality and non-crowdfunding life. Give yourself a couple of days as like a break, and just know that like it's not terrible. You're just, you know, post this high. So also something to keep an eye on. Okay, so real quick, some common factors that I've seen in successful campaigns versus unsuccessful campaigns. So marks of success, we talked a bit about thoughtful pre-launch promo, letting people know that it's coming, getting them excited about it beforehand, frequent and varied posting on social media. I recommend posting every day the first week, every other day the second week, every few days the third week, and every day the last week. Now, if you've worked with me before, which I don't know if there's anyone in the chat that I've worked with before, you know that that's a lie, because it's not every day, it's multiple times a day in that first week and that last week. Like I am like, you know, we're planning out those posts well ahead of time. We've written out those emails well ahead of time. You know, they're in drafts, they're ready to go. So I would try to like front load and back load your posting, and just give yourself a little bit of a break in the middle, because like I said, it's going to be rough anyway. But the campaigns that are successful are not worried to post about their campaign. When a campaign ends and you feel like you've been posting about it nonstop, and then there's always that one person who's like, oh, I didn't know this was happening, I wish I would have known about this. And you're like, how did you not know? It's all I talked about. I felt like I alienated everybody in my life. I was telling my morning baristas, my cat knows all the ins and outs. Like, it's all I've talked about. It's all I can think about. I wake up and check my phone. But the thing about social media is like, the algorithm is not there for us, right? It's there for the advertisers. So it's going to work against you. And so try to like I really love, I'm on the Pacific Northwest in America. And I love setting up tweets to go out at like 9 a.m. UK time. Like, so when they're getting ready, just because like I'm usually in bed by the time, or, I'm usually not online. So I like to set up tweets to go out at like weird times that I'm not usually online, just because it'll kind of give the algorithm a kick, because they'll just be like, oh, there's an American here. I guess I'll service it for whatever reason, because it's weird, and let's see what happens. And then, the UK homies are like, or the European homies are like, what are you doing up at this hour? Like, okay, we'll interact with this. We never see you around. So like things like that can gamify it, so you don't feel like you're constantly beating the same drum. Actually, Leslie, who has a campaign currently on Crowdfundr, started doing memes, and it's like a great way to continue to post about your campaign, but it's fun and it's keeping him interested in it. And it's like fun for the people who've already backed it, because they get to see which new meme that he puts out. So just like making little variations to your posting habits, I think really helps soothe your own fatigue, and then keeps it up in front of mind for people. And then celebrate your wins, because like, okay, so you haven't made funding yet, but you just hit 50 fans, 50 supporters. That's huge. That's 50 people. Depending on where you live, like if you were to take all those 50 people and put them in a coffee shop, it would be a full coffee shop, right? You hit 100 people. That's a small venue. So if you're ever starting to feel like, oh, I didn't reach that many people, I like to think about like, well, if we took all these people and put them in one room, how much would that be? What could we sell out? And actually with one of my campaigns, Gardener, I would take the number of backers and give examples, because I'm in Seattle, so there's like lots of music venues. I'd give examples of like which venues we could have sold out with all of our backers. And it was really fun for the backers to see like, oh my gosh, we just sold out the Neptune, like, woo, like we're in this. And I think it's sometimes hard to like connect with like all of those numbers are people. They're people who believe in your story. So celebrate those wins. Celebrate the big ones, obviously. Like, it's not just you and your team. It's like all of you, your team, your fans, like you're all in this together. These are people that believe in your story and your art. And so like, let's celebrate it. That's exciting. So those, I think, people who do that tend to have like very successful and fun and multiple fun and successful campaigns. Now, things to look out for: cold dropping your campaign. I've had friends even get so excited about their campaign that they launch it like a week before they said they were going to launch it. And they're just like, okay, it's here. And it's like awkward, because like, okay, but like, is it out? Like, I'm confused. Like, I thought it was coming out next week, and like I'm already doing, like it can be, if you just cold drop it, again, we're not Beyonce, so it's probably not going to go well. Launching it before you're ready. Now, there's something to be said for like making a mistake and accidentally launching, but launching with just like, because you're excited, like try not to put the cart before the horse. Not posting enough on social media. You can't just say that you want to make a book, say like, I want to make a book on a piece of paper, put it on the floor, and then walk away and hope people come and read that paper. You have to keep reminding people that there's this like dream sitting there on the floor. And you can do that by like, hey, come look at my dream. It's sitting here on the floor for anyone to see it, which again, I understand is scary, but if you're going to be so bold as to share your art with the world, I hope that you would be so bold as to give your art a fighting chance to find its audience. So make sure that you are letting people know for that full campaign. Hey, it's coming. Hey, it's here. Hey, it's leaving. Hey, we're done. Thank you for everyone that helped. Let them know. Over apologizing for posting. This is just something for me, going back to, do I believe in this project? When I see creators start apologizing for posting so much, typically they're not posting that much, but it does kind of reflect that oh, maybe you don't really believe in this project. And so people don't want to help you with your project. Like, it's harder to get people to believe in your project if you don't really seem like you believe in it. So it's going back to that. So I wouldn't apologize. Like, we all know how the game's played. Just personally, I say this a lot to my clients, like, do not apologize for trying to find your fans. Now, like, as long as like you're not hurting anybody, right? But like, posting about your art, yeah, you're an artist, people are following you for your art, like, post about it. Sending an email, as long as you're not spamming your mailing list every day or all the time, like, that's what they signed up for. Like, have faith in yourself, have faith in your fans, that they know why they wanted to follow you, they love your stuff, and have faith that you're putting out good stuff, and let them find you. Like, don't try to cut them off before they can be into it or be like, oh, I want to buy that. So I would say, like, don't apologize. Just, we all know how it goes. Post about it. Let us help you. Let us find you. And then lack of preparation. Not knowing who your manufacturer is ahead of time. Not knowing how to put a book together. I have backed projects where I basically just had to give up that I was ever going to get the product, because it became pretty apparent a couple months in that the person like wanted to make a comic but had never made one before, and didn't understand like what went into even like book design, or how to like, they didn't, so like some of those things, it's like, all right, that's kind of on me. Like, maybe I didn't read through their campaign enough, but also like, I'm not going to back their stuff again. Right. Like, I've had campaigns that I've backed not send me stuff and then post an update asking me to back their next campaign. And I was like, excuse. So, just as like a backing standpoint, like, or as like a fan, like, don't do that. That's rough. That's a rough look. For that campaign, it didn't do well. Okay. So let's say you made funding first week, sick, good for you. Do those stretch goals, live your best life. I hope your family and friends are very proud. I hope you're proud. That's awesome. But let's say that it's nearing the 4th week and it doesn't look like you're going to make it, or you haven't made it yet and it's looking real tough. What do you do? First of all, like, take a moment, I would say, to kind of like mourn. It's not over yet. Like, it's not over until it's over, but like, take a moment to be sad about it, so you're not like bringing that into the rest of it. And then like, feet to the streets, like, talk to your community, see which of your friends can like, hey, it's looking real rough. Can you, do you mind tweeting about my project? Or, hey, it's looking real rough. Can you have me on your podcast? I'm like, it's going to be tough, but I think that we can make it. Like, it's our last week. I've seen campaigns go from like 20% funded to over 100% funded in the last week. It's not impossible. And actually, like, I've seen campaigns that did not look like, I backed it and I was like, I don't know if they're going to make it. And I like, the community just came together and was like, let's do this. Because again, the great thing about crowdfunding in general is that like, people know how it is. Like, if you're other people who've made campaigns, like, they know how hard that is. And so they don't want you to feel bad. They don't want you to fail. They want to support you. So you can reach out to other campaigns, ask them if they can, boost, get some eyes on it. But I've seen some really beautiful, organic kind of campaigns happen, where people are like, this book seems really important for the culture. We need it. Please retweet this. And I'm getting a little choked up just thinking about it, because it's so cool. Because like, what other scene, right? Like, in publishing, in like, movies, it's like, if you win something, that means that like other people didn't win that, right? Like, if you get something, that means that we get less. But in crowdfunding, it's like, if like, rising tide raises all ships, right? Everybody eats. And I love that mentality. And so reach out to your community, be bold, be brave, and really try to get the word out there. And, don't count it over, because I've seen some real Hail Marys happen. Okay, I'm going to rush to this part. Post-launch, this is how I feel after a campaign's done. That's all I have to say. Just, take some time to rest, but then make sure that you're hitting your deadlines. Make sure that you're keeping your fans informed. You don't need to be posting weekly updates, but post, I would say, monthly updates. If your production window is really big, I would post monthly updates saying hey, not a lot to talk about, but we're at the printer. I'll say more in 2 months, or hey, printer just, we just approved the proof. It looks great. Here's a photo of the factory or the printer or something. Keep them up to date. They are very forgiving. If you are running out of, if you're not going to make one of your goals, if your schedule is going to be a little off, just let them know. They're very forgiving as long as you give them a heads up. If you just ghost them and then come back a year later and say oh, I have the book for you, it's going to be a little bit, there's going to be problems. So keep in touch with your fans. They are your investors. They're very forgiving as far as investors go, but they just want to know what's up. So, all right, recap. Pre-launch, let your people know about your campaign ahead of launch, line up your manufacturers, and make a posting schedule. This just helps me post 2 times this day, maybe post a meme this day. That just helps me and my stress levels. Launch, continue to post about your campaign so people can find you. Take breaths, celebrate your wins, ask friends to help spread the word, and celebrate other campaigns. Like I was talking about earlier, a big part of crowdfunding is supporting a lot of people, everybody's supporting everybody. So, don't just make sure that you're putting back into the well as well. Post-launch, keep your fans informed, deliver your project on time. But if something happens, just let them know, and be proud of your work. When you're done and you get those books, or, your movie's on the screen, or your video game is ready to play, post about it, share it. You have done what so many people can't, which is come up with an idea, come up with a plan, execute it, and finalize it and have a finished product. That pipeline has taken many lives. That's a rough pipeline, right? That's taken a lot of projects. So the fact that you made it through, beautiful, incredible. Be very proud of yourself. Yeah. Okay. We got 12 minutes left. Let's do a Q&A. I saw that we got a couple. How do you want to do this? Do you want to choose some questions for me?
Yeah, happy to do it. I think the first one is more of an interesting point, and maybe you can sort of give your thoughts on it as well. It's from Russell. And, he just sort of mentions how indie comics often try to price their work similar to mainstream comics, which can end up hurting them, because indie supporters would likely back and pay a little bit of a higher price because you don't go to a mainstream comic book store to get their product. I thought it was an interesting point. I was kind of wondering, do you have anything to add to that, or what are your thoughts on that?
No, I mean, it sounds, so this last bit, indie backers understand that indie books will often have a higher entry book cost. Too many creators on crowdfunding platforms try to price their book like a mainstream book, and it really hurts themselves. For sure. Oh my gosh. I am constantly telling clients to raise their price. You are a boutique artist. You are not a, let's say, large corporation. You do not have the same deals that Marvel has with their printers. You don't have the same deals that Disney has with their shipping partners. So it's okay that you are asking for more money, because you are a boutique and you are very small. So spot on, Russell.
Cool. I think we have another one from Apurva, who's asking, how often should they post on social media the first week and last week of their campaign? And if, which medium should they go with? Does Instagram or TikTok work better? Do you, is there anything you've noticed?
Yeah, this is a rough week to answer this one, because the Kardashians recently posted that Instagram's dead, and then Instagram responded on Twitter. saying that we're sorry that Instagram's dying, but we're not going to do much to make it better. This is a paraphrase. Historically, when a large celebrity, like when Rihanna tweeted that Snapchat was over, they tanked basically after that, and it was kind of the beginning of the end for them. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Instagram, I'll just tell you where I'm at with Instagram. I'm trying to get my clients off of it and onto other platforms. Most of this is mailing lists and TikTok or Twitter. So depending on what you can do and what you want to do, if you like typing, go to Twitter. If you like making videos, go to TikTok. If you just want to have like very direct connection, do mailing lists. But as far as posting, if you're posting to like Instagram, I would post to your stories multiple times the first and last week, and to your feed every day. If you're posting to Twitter, a couple times a day. If you're posting to TikTok, that one's a little bit more robust. So I would say like 3 to 4 times a week, if you have enough stuff to say. And mailing list, if you're just doing that, then I would say first and last, let's say 2 times the first week and 3 times the last week, if that's the only like output that you have.
Cool. All right. So the next one is from Phil, and Phil wanted to know, for scheduling social media posts, do you recommend a tool or a program, ideally free options if possible?
So for free options, like Twitter has a pretty good, planning or scheduling widget. Later has been good in the past for me, but I do not believe that's free. So I couldn't tell you for free options. A big thing that I do is like the way that I schedule them is I'll like make up the post, put it in drafts, and then I just have like on my Google Cal or on my phone, I'll have like a little alarm that goes off, and then I'll just go and press, post. So that's also a free version.
Cool. All right. So the next one is from Rob, and any TikTok video promo content advice for comic creators?
Not really. I'm not a TikTok aficionado. I have noticed that less, so on Instagram, the more polished a video was, the more likes it would get. TikTok is skewed more towards Zoomers, and Zoomers have an incredible bullshit filter. So what I've noticed on TikTok is more authentic videos do well. So if you're doing like your face and you're talking about something, you don't have to clean up your background and make sure that your house looks impeccable like you would with Instagram. You can have like your sweatpants on the floor or whatever your comfort level is, obviously, but the more authentic video it is, the better it does. So that's what I would recommend. Also, posting pages, from what I've seen, does really well, especially if you can do the physical page. So, like if you have a book that's already out, but you want to remind people that it's around, you can do like a, physically show the pages and flip through it. And those seem to do really well. Cool.
I think that's it for the questions. Anything else you wanted to add or last minute thoughts?
Do you have any questions? I feel like I saw you nodding, which I really appreciated, but is there anything that I should clarify?
So much of what you were saying makes, so much sense when you actually hear somebody say it out loud, like things like, I thought it was great when you talked about that journey of the month, right? Because I wouldn't have thought about, oh yeah, there'll be this flow and how do I deal with it? And I'll just be like, if I was doing the crowdfunding, I would be in a constant rack for week 2 and 3. It was like, what's going on? Why is it so dead? And then that crazy high back again, and then the weird low once it's finished, even though it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think there's so much of what you were saying. I was just digesting that content and really like taking into consideration all the things that, as humans, we probably just don't think about until we're in that moment, and then we don't know how to deal with them. So it's kind of really great for you to put that out there in a way that just made all the sense and say, oh yeah, this is natural, this is normal, and you're right. Like, sometimes we may not get that funding to 100%, but then that's when you really say, okay, I'm going to put my boots on the last week and just like use my network as much as I can to, see what I can do with it. And I really like that you asked your team in that last week to just kind of, last day, sorry, to just kind of clear the schedules, be in it together, high or low, whatever it is, you can kind of all be together and experience that and how kind of get each other through it. I don't have too many questions, but I think there's so much of what you were saying was just again, it was just things I would have not thought about, but absolutely on the head now, after hearing somebody mention it.
Yeah. Well, no questions, but, we will always take affirmations. Thank you. Much appreciated.
Yeah, I think it's very informative and in a very, very good way.
Good. I'm so glad.
Yeah.
This is my Sappy, one of my last slides, and then I'll skip to a couple more. Yeah, I think your art is worthy of an audience. You don't have to wait for somebody to tell you it's worthy. You can just decide that it's worthy and you can go find them. And that's why crowdfunding is so cool, is because you have the power to go find that audience. So go for it. If it doesn't work, figure out why it didn't work and try again. Be brave. This is where you can follow me on social media. I am on TikTok. I'm also figuring it out. So yeah, follow me, DM me if you have any questions. Happy to help where I can. Love the more art, the better. And here is a little bit more about Creator Hub. I don't know if you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think we do have 4 minutes left, so I'm just going to try to keep it short. For those of you who don't know, Creator Hub, we're creating within Crowdfundr a platform for like-minded folks to come in and talk about, the different projects they work on, and not just to, we're not making this a platform to advertise your work, but more to connect and network within, your craft. So if you are a comic creator, you may want to have questions about publishing, shipping, and so on. The goal with this is to really connect with other folks that have been through this and get their perspective on it. So really just a community for, people that want to go in and get the most out of that networking space. We do also offer exclusive webinars, networking events, and forums and toolkits for obviously the crowdfunding in general, but also our platform. So we highly recommend you check it out. There's a lot of good stuff in there, and we're just going to keep growing it and get wonderful people like Jazzlyn and hopefully all of you attendees on there to share your experiences and help grow that community. And then lastly, on the topic of webinars, we do have 3 more coming up in the next week or two. On August the 11th, we are, kind of doing one with Gigi Knight. If anybody knows her, it's about self-promotion tips and growing your followers. On August 12th, you'll be hearing from me and my dog Gus, mostly me. He'll just be judging me on how crowdfunding transforms the way you fund creative projects. So we'll talk a bit about a platform and just some more ideas there. And then with Robin, I think, who is on this call, thank you, Robin, for joining us. We'll talk about some best practices that artists can use to avoid burnout and stay creative, which is a super important topic because I feel like in the space that this just go, work. I think we need to take a little time to just focus on ourselves a little bit and make sure we're doing okay. So Robin's going to be great to, share with us her practices and
yeah. Oh man, it's going to be a good one. I mean, they're all going to be good. I'm excited to grab my free spot and be in the audience next time.
Please do. And just so I'm going to put up a link in the chat box so everybody can go click on that, where you can go in and register for these webinars. So feel free to go grab your spot. We'd love for all of you to be on that again. And, as always, ask questions and reach out to us if you have questions. You obviously saw Jazzlyn's social information there if you wanted to connect with Jazzlyn directly as well. But thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you, Jazzlyn, so much for all this amazing content you put together and shared with us. Super helpful. I think, this was a great session.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me be one of the first on here. And thanks everybody for joining. I had a lot of fun and I hope you all did too.
All right. And on that note, hopefully everybody enjoys the rest of the week and has a wonderful weekend ahead.
Okay. Bye, y'all.